So welcome everybody. Thank you. Thank you to Annie. And I was going to say, we have just put the lengthier morning meditation prayer book up on our website, but WordPress just stopped using the theme we had built our website on, and our whole website is scrambled. So you might be able to find it, but we'll be working on it in the coming weeks to get it back together. So in the last couple of weeks, both Pema Chodron and Thrangu Rinpoche have gone into great depth about refining what we mean by shamatha and vipassana. And we were using terms like, with the stability of shamatha, we're able to see through vipassana what is relative and what is absolute, what is the nature of mind. And so these are very, let's say, elevated philosophical concepts. And the next stage of their teaching is to then go right to the basics. How do you begin? And we may think, oh, you know, this is something that's not so useful, but actually a review is always very helpful, and it's beautiful to me to see how clearly it's expressed. So as you might imagine, Pema Chodron goes right to the very practical. And, you know, essentially she could entitle her description as one of her book titles, Start Where You Are. So she's very clear that you don't need anything. It can be any amount of meditation time, any time of day. And then when you're ready to commit to what works for you, make sure that it's a quiet space with a meditation seat. You might have reminders like pictures that are inspiring to you or small statues. And this can eventually evolve into a more formal altar. And she also suggests that you start with a timer. So if you are just beginning and want to start with 5 minutes, you might set a timer for 5 minutes so that you feel confident that you can bring all of your alertness and not just sort of go into vague states of mind without realizing that time is progressing. But this instruction of not needing anything is also a way of saying, don't make any excuses. If you want to meditate, it can be any time that you have. You don't have to wait for a perfect time of day to clear up. You don't have to wait till you're in a better state of mind. You don't have to have a perfect altar prepared. Commit to a specific set of time, and then if you want to repeat that set of time, 5 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 5 minutes, then you're priming yourself for success. You're not sitting down and saying, I'm going to do an hour, and then finding that it's very difficult to maintain attention for an hour. And then the other instruction she gives is to remember that we always bring all of who we are to the meditation seat. And she calls the process of this first sitting down, settling. So just because you're sitting down and starting to observe your breath or starting to count your breaths, it doesn't mean that all the events of the past day isn't on your mind. All of the current worries about your family, all of the irritation and anger you might have felt is still there. It doesn't just disappear with sitting down and deciding to meditate. It's not a rigidity, nor is it a struggle with your mind, nor is it bypassing all of your emotional states. But with a settling, it's sort of like accepting this is my mind state today, without wanting to make it different than it is, wanting it to be some better state. It's a way of not judging the state of mind that you encounter. And my favorite instruction to myself is, it's like opening the door every day and seeing the weather. I might want it to be a perfect, beautiful, clear, sunny day, but it rarely is. And so the weather is fairly neutral. And so I don't start judging the weather. I just accept, oh, this is the weather today. I need a raincoat and an umbrella. So from the perspective of meditation, I might need a reminder for how to work with agitation in order to settle my mind into a calm enough state that I can start to observe my breath in a focused way. And in an earlier chapter, she has this beautiful statement that you might have just gotten lost if you were reading quickly. You've seen it all, and that allows you to love it all. You've seen all of your mental states. You've lived with all of your mental states. And by becoming aware and present with those states, you're allowing yourself to be vulnerably who you are and loving that mind that is capable of seeing those states. And if, for instance, if we were working with something very troubling and we saw our agitated mind as agitated mind, and we're present with that agitated mind in its restlessness without struggling with it, that's meditation. That's being in the present moment. So over the years, we start to, through trial and error, notice that there are some circumstances that are more beneficial and more favorable. And so Thrangu Rinpoche outlines in his book, well, what are favorable circumstances or beneficial circumstances for meditation? The first is a place where you have the materials that you need. You have the prayer book that you're working with. You have a comfortable place to sit. You have quiet, not in the middle of a playground of a middle school, for instance. You have some degree of quiet. So that makes it easier. The second is you shouldn't have a great deal of desire. Oh, I need to make the perfect altar first. I need all those water bowls. I need the most beautiful Buddha statue. I need a really excellent brand of incense. I need all the perfect candles. Again, it's getting rid of anything that is sort of an excuse for your mind to both wander from meditation, but not sit and commit to the time and place that you have. We want to have a contentment with what we have, and we might gradually build. Then the third one actually is contentment, that everything we have is perfectly fine. And then giving up worldly activities. So separating a time when you're not running your business, realizing that in this meditation, you're not going to all of a sudden deviate and make a list, no matter how brilliant an idea comes up for solving relationship problems, work problems. You're not going to go into that list. We're separating our worldly list-making mind, problem-solving mind, to calming down, focusing. It's interesting that as we go deeper into Buddhism, there's a sense of emphasis first on outer conduct. So the instructions that it's favorable for meditation to have good conduct. And in fact, there is the simple joy that arises from confidence in your conduct. Haven't told any lies, so I don't have to worry about repairing. Haven't stolen anything, so there's no nagging guilt. So there's a relationship between whatever level of vows we take and the evolving confidence and conduct of not creating more difficulty for ourselves, but also experiencing the peaceful happiness of a clear conscience. And then, of course, while we're in meditation, we wouldn't be creating more violent acts. So we're maintaining this good conduct throughout our meditation time. And then avoiding his seventh and inner favorable condition is avoiding distractions of desires as well as ideas and concepts. So not thinking about lunch when we're meditating today, noticing, maybe a desire comes up, but letting it go. Being more and more at ease with letting go of the activity of the mind, whatever that might be, when we are working with meditation. This is different from analytic meditation when we have specific focused investigations, and then they become the object of meditation. And again, in that situation, we don't deviate to other kinds of activities. And then he quotes another sutra, which repeats in a different way some of the same favorable conditions, but this sutra mentions it should be in a healthy place. It should be a place where you're free of fear. In the old days, you might have been afraid of bandits, wild animals if you were outside, free of danger, and that is healthy, not extremely hot, not extremely cold, not extremely damp, not extremely moldy. So the space should be healthy to support your body. And to build relationships with companions that are of the same view, that support your desire for taking time for meditation and are not pulling you away saying, oh, let's go to this party, let's go to this movie, have you read the latest book, et cetera, but you want to do meditation on that day, I'll make sure that I don't call during that time, or let me put it on my calendar so I know not to interrupt you, et cetera. So we have inner and outer, and they describe conduct as something that is both inner and outer. So as we continue, we start to see that the lay vows first deal with conduct, and then the bodhisattva vow starts to deal with states of mind. And so this state of mind of wanting to benefit others also supports peaceful, gentle, we would say klesha mind being subdued, or the poisonous emotions of anger, jealousy, pride, etc., because we are calming those emotions with our bodhisattva commitment to keep benefiting all sentient beings. And so again, our mind is softened and moistened and even more committed to the time that we do have, because we see ourselves in relation to our families and all the beings who are suffering. So he says, with all of these favorable conditions, the shamatha will definitely develop, and that we will notice if we don't have favorable conditions, it will be hard for the shamatha to develop. So how do we really understand those instructions today? We might say, oh, I can't control my environment. My home is next to the middle school playground, or I have a family, I have responsibilities, I have to earn a living. So it might seem as though between these two authors, there are conflicting instructions. You can start anywhere, anytime, or good to have favorable conditions to really have things develop. But essentially, both are true. Starting where you are is cultivating an immediate contentment and not making any excuse to postpone, to accept your circumstances as they are, and to make meditation a priority so you gradually adjust your circumstances. So one thing you would notice if you visited a Thich Nhat Hanh monastery, every time a bell rings, and they intentionally have a clock that chimes, I think, every quarter hour at least, and every time a telephone rings, everybody stops everything and they stand still and they just take a moment. They take several deep breaths and they notice, has my mind become agitated? Have I left an awareness of what this present moment is? So they come back to the present moment. We might do that with our phones ringing and our phones pinging with messages. And it might be possible to only take one breath to come back to, is my mind distracted, agitated? Can I breathe in and come into this present moment and then go back to my duties with more awareness? I was very impressed with the teachers also that Sharon Salzberg and Jeffrey Goldstein studied with. They searched out Dipa Ma Barua, who on the outside looked like an ordinary middle-aged housewife, essentially. Young woman then. But she was in a big apartment building with her daughter and their children, and they would meditate before the children got up, and then they would send the children off to school, and then they would meditate. So they took their household and organized silence in the time that could be silent, and then were perfectly present for the children. And eventually, their neighbors and the other families in the building noticed the presence, you might say, the kindness, the gentleness, and wanted to learn meditation as well. And so, they're building their neighborhood, even though it was in the middle of a huge city, became circumstances that were conducive to meditation. And she was considered, at the end of her life, one of the great, great meditators in Thailand. So as we are going deeper into our own meditation, in addition to seeing what circumstances there are in your daily life, we can, for the moment, say, all right, what would happen if I created favorable circumstances for an afternoon? Stopped all my busyness, all my running around solving problems for an afternoon, or for a day, a weekend, a week. And at first, we call these silent individual meditation retreats. distinguishing them from retreats where you go and listen to a teaching, let's say, all day. So these are meditation retreats in which we can take time to contemplate the teachings we've heard, take time to practice shamatha, and take time to see what it's like to immerse for longer and longer periods of time. And this sets up very good habits so that then we bring our habits back into our daily life, the gentleness, the bodhicitta, the quality of being in the present and being aware, until over time, we really don't distinguish between retreats and daily life. It's nowness, and we are in our awareness of nowness moment to moment. But as we're accumulating a wealth of good habits, it's good to set aside a period of time and take those instructions of favorable circumstances, a safe, healthy place, a quiet place, no distractions, and no inner or outer distractions, supported by your bodhisattva vow of meditating in order to benefit all sentient beings. And this is, it starts building a way of life. In the same way, the Dipa Ma created a way of life with her family and her circumstances. We build a way of life with our own circumstances and our own responsibilities, and expand our capacity as our natural curiosity and love of meditation and, let's say, discovery in meditation and value of the truth of seeing instances of relative as relative and absolute as absolute start to be a more constant part of our life and part of our mind. So, for instance, in the next week, I'll be going into retreat from Sunday to Sunday, and having taken His Holiness's most recent training in the Shamatha Mahamudra practice in India, seeing it was one thing to hear all of this information and to practice with it in a supportive environment, but there was so much that I need to revisit it while it's still fresh and think about each nugget that was there. We have a group that does work with the Sharvasti curriculum who's previously taken retreats. And I've noticed that just one of the new instructions is so profound that just the short Friday morning practice is not enough time to really go deeply into just one sentence, one instruction that he gave. So this is to say, I follow the same process that I'm advocating of listening to the teachings, training in philosophy, then setting up my life. So at different periods, I've done long retreats, different periods I've done shorter retreats, so that I can not only contemplate what I've learned, but then I can take them into retreat, focusing on them and allowing each instruction to blossom into a direct experience. And many of the direct experiences, the suggestion is just this one instruction you should work with for many months. And it's very common to say, oh, shamatha, you should work with that in silent retreat for a year. So again, following up on what I was saying last week, now that you can see your own capacity to settle your mind, you can see your own capacity in the Lojong, or the mind training system, which worked with our reactivity, let's say, then we just keep going in our own circumstances as fully, completely, and immersively as we're able. So let's sit with this this morning, sitting with the shamatha first for 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes, and just noticing the process of what you came with this morning, what your weather is, what settling feels like to you, being present with your mind as it is, and then gently moving that mind into the meditative instructions of observing your breath. So starting now. And return. So we have some time for questions and discussion. So I'm going to close the live stream. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase.